Hello and welcome to another edition of the Alternative Car Show from the Great British Car Journey Museum near Matlock. Now, we have been invited here by Club Marcos International to help them celebrate a couple of very special anniversaries. But first, this morning, all the cars gathered at the hotel ready to come over to the museum, and here's a little bit of footage from that.
Which was a cheap one. Anyway, that ended up like a little bit disconnected.
It was probably, I don't know, there's 3 here this weekend, which is an unusual. I really appreciate you coming.
It's been great, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Same morning.
Yeah.
You just get things done. Just have a night. Yeah.
You'd expect Ford engine to go for it.
Yeah.
Well, they should really. Even if you don't drive.
Oh, absolutely.
Fetch them out. I used to know a person who took all sorts of cars. Paint fire them all, let them get up to temperature, roll them back as before, apply the brakes, and put them back, lift them up. They just stood on little axles now.
So with the cars in place, here's someone to tell us a little bit more about the anniversaries that the club is celebrating.
Right, I'm Debbie Morrison and it is Club Marcos International, and I'm sort of an event organiser.
So tell us about today's event.
Today is a Club Marcos International rally, which an annual rally. Obviously hasn't happened in recent years because of COVID. And today we're also celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Mantis model and the 30th anniversary of the Mantara, including the LM.
So tell us the difference between the two.
The Mantis has a different engine in it, basically. The body's pretty much the same. The bonnet is different to incorporate the bulge of the Cobra engine that they have. The Mantaras, including the LM, have a Rover V8, so the bulge didn't have to be so big. The LMs evolved from the Mantara, the slimmer models, because they wanted to go racing at Le Mans, which is why they're called the LM. And that's the 30th anniversary of the Mantara.
And the 25th anniversary
of the Mantis.
Right, which went to the Cobra 5 litre V8?
Yes, correct.
So, tell us a little bit more about the club and how long have you been involved, and tell us about your car.
Right, so the club has, I can't tell you exactly how long the club's been running. Isabel would be able to help me with that. I've been a Marcos owner since 1999 when we bought our purple LM there. She's a member of the family now. Fell in love, and so we've had her 23 years now. And the club was originally set up by the factory when the factory was running, and it is still going at now.
Okay, my name's Richard Usher. I'm the lunatic that set up the Great British Car Journey, and the reason I set it up was, you probably know that I built Blyton Park Circuit, and there was a dear old boy in Blyton Village who used to come up virtually every day, and one day he said to me, "I've got an Austin Maestro." And I tried not to look too excited, although I am a Brummie, and I thought, when did I actually last see an Austin Maestro? And then he said it's done 10,000 miles. And I said, "Where is it?" He said, "Oh, it's on my drive." I said, "Well, it can't stay on your drive, because if you leave it on your drive in the winter, it'll just fall apart." So he bought the car up and I ended up buying it. And it got me thinking about all the cars of 30, 40, 50 years ago that were totally commonplace, the family car, that have completely disappeared. So the thread through Car Journey, it is a journey. There's a device that takes you on the journey. And we start with the Austin 7, and then we go to the Morris Minor, and then we go to the Ford Escort, and we dwell on these family cars that have completely disappeared. So the most difficult car we've actually had to find was a straight 1.3L Vauxhall Chevette hatchback, and we just could not find one, and we ended up buying one from Vauxhall when Peugeot sold off the Vauxhall collection. So I think we've probably got the only Vauxhall Chevette with 6,000 miles on the clock.
Wow.
We've also got 2 Minis in there that have never been road registered, including one of the last Minis. We've got the last Morris Minor ever made. We've got 2 Minor Millions. We've got some interesting exotic cars as well, but the thread, the stories about the cars that real people owned.
Yeah.
And quite often I come across ladies sat in the car park reading the paper, and I bang politely on the window and say, "You're not going in?" "No, it's him that's into cars." I said, "Well, I think you should go in. I'll let you in for half price." And they come up after and say, "Do you know, I've absolutely loved it, because I've seen the first car, Dad's car, Uncle Herbert's car, all those cars that we've all forgotten about." And that's really what Car Journey's all about.
That's the joy for me when you watch old films and you're seeing the cars that you grew up with, and you, oh yeah, when was the last time I saw? Yeah, so
yeah. So you know.
So you've saved them.
Well, we have really. Yeah, I mean, we've just bought a Vauxhall Victor FE, and it's got 86 miles on the clock. You know, and you think, what? And I don't really know the story. I know bits of the story of this car, but it's very mysterious. And again, went to see it. Well, this is just a no-brainer. There won't be another. I think they made about 50,000 sort of Victor FEs, but this will be the lowest mileage, most original FE Victor in the world. And actually, as somebody that's owned a lot of exotic, very fast cars, I'm now completely fascinated by things like that 1300 GT.
So I'm not going to ask you about a favourite, because that's not fair. It's like choosing a favourite child. But there must be one that sort of makes you smile because there's a story, or there's a couple of stories that applied to the car from your perspective.
I think there's probably two that I'd single out. Firstly, the Minor Millions, because although I'm a huge car enthusiast, I've owned hundreds of cars, I didn't know the story of the Minor Millions, which was the first special edition. So when the Minor hit 1 million, some bright spark at Morris said, we must do a special edition. And every dealer was sent a Minor Million, which is, they were all lilac, they've got white leather interior, and instead of Minor 1,000 badges, they've got Minor Million badges. And they made 350 of them. 50 of them went to the export dealers all around the world. And there are about 55 left. And again, by a strange quirk of coincidence, the registrar lives in a village called Yulgrave, which is the next village to the one I live in, not very far from here. So that was an interesting. We've got 2 Minor Millions, so the 50 that exist, and we let the public drive one of them, so we must be crazy. So you don't just get to drive an ordinary Minor. Our Drive Dad's Car Experience, which we have 38 cars, which is what's going on behind you. And the other car that I really love, because it resonates for me, we've got a fantastic Austin 16 Woody. And again, what I didn't know, and very few people do know this, was that the Austin 16 Woodies were made at Patworth Hospital. And the reason they were made at Patworth Hospital was because Patworth was an isolation hospital for people with tuberculosis. Resonates for me because my mum had tuberculosis and was in an isolation hospital. Unfortunately, she was cured. And the guy that set up Patworth realised that his patients were highly contagious, but often not very ill. So they were in isolation, and they were in danger of going stir crazy. So he set up Patworth Industries, and Patworth Industries' specialities were woodwork and leatherwork. So they did luggage for Gucci, and they built every Austin Woody ever made was bodied at Patworth. And they went on to do the Green Goddess fire engines, because they were wooden framed. They did a lot of work for the post office, for all the interiors of post office vans with their wooden stuff. So in there, it's one of the first 500 Austin 16 Woodies. It's the only one in beautiful condition. It's one of the few cars we've spent quite a lot of money on, because it had been restored 40 years ago and it was just beginning to go. So we've had it resprayed, done all the woodwork, and behind it is a picture of the assembly line at Patworth, and everybody in that picture has got TB. Very resonant again with COVID. So when we bought that car, we was right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And it's just one of those things, when I get in it, A, it's a lovely thing, and B, I just think, this was built by people who were very, potentially, would die of a disease that was incurable. And you probably know that's Austin's house.
Yes.
And that Chummy is one that's not here at the moment, but it's usually here. It had 2 lady owners. The second owner was a midwife, and she did 40,000 miles in it, delivering babies in the war.
Fantastic.
And so we took it back to Licky Grange, and that is the billiard room in which Austin designed the car.
Right.
That was some of the sort of ghosted drawings with Herbert sat in the prototype. So what we've tried to do is to give the thing more of a motor show feel than a museum feel. So we've got very big artwork, and everything about the cars is on the device. So you scan the device, the car.
Excellent.
And you get. This one came to us. This is on loan. But again, if you'd said to me Errol Johnston, I'd have said, no, I don't know what Errol Johnston are. But George Johnston was arrested in 1895 in Glasgow for driving one of his contraptions around in contravention of the 1872 Locomotive Act. No red flag man in front of him. But the magistrate said, look, Mr. Johnson, you're obviously a clever chap, we'll give you a nominal fine, but please don't do it again. And he went into partnership with Errol, who was the local MP, and also had built the Forth Road Bridge. And they made 600 or so of these. And believe it or not, again, talking about rarity, 9 of these have survived.
Wow.
But this is probably the most original one, because that is the original body.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever been taken completely to pieces. And we did manage to get it going in November, if you look on our Facebook. This car here, it says, this car has a special story. About 15 of them have. I'm going to tell you the special story of this one, okay?
Got 3 vehicles.
Yeah. But this is a Daimler D36 limousine.
Yeah.
It's the last straight 8 car ever built in the UK. So it's got a 5.5 litre straight 8 engine, developing a whopping 150 brake horsepower at about 1800 RPM. And Arthur Elvin, whose car this was, he had this specially built for him.
JE1.
Yeah, and he was selling cigarettes in a kiosk at Wembley when it was built for the Commonwealth exhibition.
Yeah, yeah.
And after the Commonwealth exhibition, he thought this would make a fantastic place to do things in. And so he got a consortium together, and the consortium bought Wembley Stadium, and Elvin became a multimillionaire promoting football, greyhound racing and speedway.
Yeah.
And he was shot down in the First World War. He was an aviator, so he refused to ever go in an aeroplane again. So he travelled quite extensively, and this was his second Daimler. We've got all the build sheets of this car, and one of the things that makes this quite special is it's 1.5 inches higher than any of, I think Hooper's built 16 of these.
So he could wear his hat.
So he could wear his trilby when he was being chauffeured driven in the van.
Oh, excellent. Hence the picture with the trilby in the in the back.
I said to our illustrator, we've got a very good illustrator, I said, I want you to do an illustration which makes Wembley Stadium look small, because this is a very big car.
It is.
It's a monster.
I bet you that truck's out a lot of torque though.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
But sadly, you see, these cars really...
the sun visor.
Oh yeah, the sun visor on it,
cantilever.
yes, a cantilever. Oh, and also the back seats. I've got a letter from Daimler to Hoopers saying Sir Arthur and Lady Elvin are coming in to try the back seat out, and they came in and they thought the back seat was okay, but he'd had it made so that her side was softer than his. Lord, who was running BMC, was the first managing director of the newly merged Austin and Morris empire, thought that the Americans would love that, and so that's what they styled it, built it. Even the Americans looked and think, good God, what on earth is that? So sadly, at the same motor show, Lions launched the XK120. Clark Gable walked into the Los Angeles showroom and said, God, I got to have one of those. And they could never make those quick enough. They couldn't give these away. But actually, I've driven that. And it's
as ugly as the Edsel.
I think it's because they got presents. So, well, I had a Mini when I've always had Minis, because my dad had a minivan because he was a TV repairman. And she has had the odd non-Mini, but when she heard the Mini was going out of production, she ordered one of the last 500. It's still got the labels on it. She drove it 21 years to the day after she took delivery of it in our car park for the first time. It now has 5 miles on the clock.
It's still got the wrapping on the bumpers.
Still got the wrapping on the bumpers.
Gilburn.
Oh gosh, I'm not sure I know the difference between all the Scimitar.
Done 9,000 miles. Wow.
It's a great little car.
It's a great driving car.
Light. So many. The thing that strikes you about driving any of these cars of this era, small cars, is how light they are.
Yes.
You know, getting a modern car and it's all power assisted, but if you haven't got that power assistance, you need to be in that. That's the Vauxhall dealer in Ilkeston, just up the road.
Yeah.
6 years after he bought it, he drove it to Derby and had it Z-barted.
Yeah.
And then 3 years ago, when he died, they were clearing a piece of land behind a load of terraced houses that he owned. And somebody rang up the executive and said, there's a shed here with a car in it. So they pulled this out. The interior had all been taped up.
Yeah.
So if you look inside here, it is as clean and new an interior as you're ever going to see.
Yeah. Wow. That's like straight out the factory.
And all the chrome had been taken off it, except these, and he taped these up. So the bumpers, the wheel trims, the door handles were all bagged up, all covered in oil, all in the back of the car. And in the boot was a complete service kit, 9 5-litre petrol cans, and a new exhaust system. And we don't. That's all we know. So what was he thinking? Why did he buy it in the first place? Why did he only do 86 miles with it? 43 of which were to Derby and back to have it Z-barted. And then why did he put it in a shed, remove all the chrome work and fill the boot with brand new spares?
I'd call that a portent of the future.
So that is the original
Patina. Yeah.
That's the original sticker.
Oh right.
That's not a repro. That's
It's incredible. You see, the thing for me is with the TR7 is the V8 rallying Tony Pond.
Yeah, but I think about another car you might be interested in. So what is it, Eric? He said, it's a Reliant. I said, oh, he said, it's an SS. I said, well, anyway, it's done about 35,000 miles. And because I used to go to school up the A5 and through the Reliant factory, because it was on both sides of the road, and the Reliant story is such a great story anyway, I thought, well, I've got to buy it really. So.
Yeah, I've always wanted to drive one of those because...
They're a bit shaky.
Yeah?
Yeah, because there's not much of a chassis. So it's your typical fiberglass, you know, slight kit car. You go over a bump and you sort of think, oh, I wonder if the wheel's still on. But it drives quite well with the crazy twin plane and air intakes. And that's a good car.
Yes.
It goes like a rocket.
Well, they have got a following. They have got a following. But again, they're not getting the money that they should. This, right, for me, it's perfect. I've never driven it, so it's still perfect. If I drove it and it wasn't perfect, it would ruin it for me. So that's why I can never drive one. Does that make any sense at all?
It does make sense. They are, but they should be worth more.
Yes.
And they will be worth more because they only made 300 of them.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome.
I've been given special permission to come here to ProDrive to film a car that was driven by one of my rallying heroes, Jimmy McRae.
And, you know, it was a year I'm glad I never missed. The first time I drove the metro was from the van to the scrutineering at the breakdown rally, yeah.